Thanks, Senator Klobuchar. Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are a few more consequential decisions the Senate undertakes or this committee undertakes than the nomination and confirmation of Supreme Court justices. Judge Jackson is charming. She's talented. She has an inspiring life story. If she's confirmed, she will be an historic first, the first African-American woman to serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. I've known Judge Jackson for 30 years. I've always liked her personally. But the assessment this body is charged with the Constitution with making is whether her records demonstrate she will be a justice who will faithfully uphold the Constitution. Now, our Democratic colleagues and their cheerleaders in the corporate media have repeatedly tried to suggest that any opposition to Judge Jackson's nomination is rooted in racism or sexism. There's some irony in that because all of the Democrats on this committee were only so happy to vote against the confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett without facing any concerns about the sexism they were showing. And there's greater irony in Democrats celebrating this historic first because it would have occurred 20 years ago. An African-American woman could have served on the Supreme Court 20 years ago, except for the fact that Democrats filibustered a qualified African-American woman, Judge Janice Rogers Brown. Indeed, if members of this committee were asked to raise your hand, have you ever filibustered a qualified African-American woman in order to prevent her from going to the U.S. Supreme Court? 3 hands would go up. None on this side of the aisle, but the 3 most senior Democrats would all be obliged to raise their hand. Also, Joe Biden, if he's at home watching this on C-SPAN, Joe Biden would raise his hand as well. Chuck Schumer would raise his hand as well. So this historic first could have happened a decade ago, but for the unified partisan opposition of Democrats to letting it happen with a judge who was not on the hard left. A number of Democrats complained that there were hard questions asked. Well, that's our responsibility. Every one of the questions focused on her record as a judge, her sentencing record, her academic writings, her speeches to law schools. Not a single Republican senator asked her about her high school yearbook, engaged in the kind of personal slanders that Democrats have made a business about. If the questions were hard, it is because her record is at the extreme. There have been 115 men and women who have served on the Supreme Court. If Judge Jackson is confirmed, I believe she will prove to be the most extreme and the furthest left justice ever to serve on the United States Supreme Court. She will be to the left of Justice Sotomayor. She will be to the left of Justice Kagan. She will be way, way, way to the left of Justice Stephen Breyer. That's why radical leftist groups have pledged to spend over $1 million supporting her nomination while they demanded the Biden White House pick the furthest left, the most extreme nominee. That's their agenda. Now, our Democratic colleagues like to pretend they don't support the agenda this justice can be predicted to follow. Based on her record, if she is confirmed, I think the odds are virtually 100% that she will vote to overturn Heller versus District of Columbia, which means she will vote to overturn, to take away the Second Amendment right to keep and bear arms of every individual. If she is confirmed, the odds are virtually 100% she will vote to overturn the Citizens United case, which means she will vote to take away the free speech rights of Americans to participate in the political process. If she is confirmed, the odds are nearly 100% she will vote to strike down every single reasonable restriction on abortion across the country. That includes restrictions on partial birth abortion. That includes requirements for parental notification or consent. If she is confirmed, the odds are nearly 100% she will vote to overturn efforts to enforce our nation's borders and to deport those here illegally. The Make the Road case demonstrated her willingness to put left-wing policy above the law. If she is confirmed, the odds are over 100% she will vote to give away U.S. sovereignty to international tribunals and international bodies. If she is confirmed, the odds are overwhelming she will vote to undermine our religious liberty and to overturn decisions like Zellman versus Simmons-Harris, the 5-4 landmark decision that upheld school choice. Understand the consequence of this nomination. If she is confirmed, the odds are very, very high she will vote to throw out school choice programs all across this country. And then there's crime. No topic has been the focus of this hearing more than her record on crime, and her record on crime is out of the mainstream. Her record on crime is extreme. Now, our Democratic colleagues have responded with a straw man. They've responded saying, well, judges all over the country sentence below the guidelines. When you look at her record, it's not just below the guidelines, though. In 100% of the child pornography cases where Judge Jackson had discretion, 100%, she sentenced not just below the guidelines, but below where the prosecutor asked, and usually substantially below. But my colleagues say everybody does it. That's their defense. Everybody does it. Well, let's look at the facts. In criminal cases nationally, this is all criminal cases nationally. If you compare Judge Jackson's record in criminal cases nationally, her average sentence is 29.9 months. The national average is 45.1 months. So that's all crimes, murder, rape, anything that's a crime, all of them on the national statistics. She sentences a third lower than the national average. The Democrats' argument, everybody does it, doesn't stand up to the scrutiny. But when you look in particular at child pornography, a topic that is disturbing, the Democrats say, well, gosh, she doesn't like child pornography. Of course she doesn't. No rational person does. It's horrible. My Democratic colleagues go to the Senate floor and they read from her statements talking about these are not victimless crimes. These are little boys and little girls being horribly, violently assaulted. It stays with them their whole lives. I agree with what she says, but she says that and then turns around and gives the defendant, the criminal, a slap on the wrist. And if you look at the records, possession of child pornography, the national average is 68 months. That's every federal district judge in the country. What is Judge Jackson's average? 29.2 months. She sentence is 57% lower than the national average, 57%. Even more disturbing, distribution. The national average for distributing child porn, videos of little children being sexually assaulted, the national average is 135 months. 11 years. That's a long sentence because it's a horrible crime. Her average is 71.9 months. That's 47% less, but this is even more striking when you realize that the mandatory minimum for distributing child porn is 60 months. That under federal law, you can't go below 60 months. What that means is that judges across the country on average sentence those distributing child porn to 75 months longer than the mandatory minimum. And Judge Jackson sentences them on average to 11.9 months longer. Now, the Democrats suggest this is cherry picking. This is based on every single child pornography case she's decided. And by the way, we just last week after the hearing got information on another case, United States versus Weeks, of an individual who raped his 13-year-old niece. Judge Jackson sentenced him to half what the prosecutors wanted because he failed to register on a sex registry and went to work at a daycare. While he was released early because of Judge Jackson's sentence, he committed another sexual assault, a rape, Again, she had him before her, and again, she sentenced him to half what the prosecutors sought. This is a pattern. Now, Democratic senators like to say they don't want to abolish the police. But I'll tell you what, if Judge Jackson is confirmed, her record demonstrates that it is 100% certain she will vote to overturn the death penalty, and that repeatedly she will vote to overturn strict sentences on violent criminals, to release violent criminals from jail, to overturn strict punishments on sex offenders. And my Democratic colleagues like to say when crime is skyrocketing, when murder rates are skyrocketing, when carjacking is skyrocketing, when sexual assaults are skyrocketing, my Democratic colleagues say it's not my fault. Well, I'll tell you what, when you vote to confirm justices who release criminals over and over and over again in a way that is wildly out of the mainstream, it is the Democrats' fault.